Hi, I'm Tabby from ArtfulScribe, and I run creative writing workshops for 11 to 18-year-olds at Pool Lighthouse, which we're currently running online via Zoom, and also a new group which we have just started called ArtfulScribe Young Writers Online, which are for 11 to 18-year-olds and which run on Wednesdays from 11:30 a.m. until 1 p.m. And there are still places available for this. So if you'll be interested in signing up, or if you know anyone who might be, please email us at youngwritersonline@artfulscribe.co.uk for more information and for the sign up details. Today I'm going to be taking you through some script writing exercises and challenges of the kinds that we might get up to in a writing workshop. So if you're interested, please keep watching and feel free to pause the video at any point to jot down any ideas you have or to follow through with the writing challenges as I'm talking you through them. And as in my previous video, which was the ArtfulScribe Poetry Bake Off, today I'm going to be setting you some script writing challenges, but again following the format of the Great British Bake Off. Which is something I do sometimes in our writing workshops and which the young writers seem to really enjoy. So you'll have a signature challenge, a technical challenge, and a showstopper challenge. But instead of being to do with baking, of course, they're going to be to do with writing. And today they're going to be about script writing. So if you would like to follow along, make sure you've got something to write with. And I will just talk you through some challenges which hopefully will be useful to you at whatever stage you're at, whether you've never tried to write a script or anything like that before, or whether you're writing one at the moment. Hopefully this will be something useful for you to do. So to begin with, the first challenge is the signature challenge, which in Bake Off they give you something like cupcakes or cookies, which lots of people might have made before, but they ask you to put your particular spin on it. So today I'm going to give you a framework for the start of a scene of dialogue, which you're then going to have a go at putting your own spin on. So people might say that all plays, when you boil it down to the basics, are basically about one character trying to get something and another character or a thing kind of standing in their way. So I've just written, and this is definitely not Shakespeare standards, but just a very basic dialogue between two characters. I haven't even given them any names. They're just called A and B. And in this scene, A wants something and B is stopping them from getting it. So I've kept it very simple. I haven't even spelt out what this thing is or why A wants it or why B is stopping them from getting it. But if you just want to have a read of this as kind of a basic framework, and then what I'm going to ask you to do is to try and add into this and rewrite it in whichever way you want to, your idea of what this scene could really be about. So you can give A and B names if you want to. You can decide how old they are, what gender they are, how they know each other. So maybe they are two siblings fighting over who gets to watch the TV. Maybe they're a mother and child. Maybe they are best friends fighting over, I don't know, a love interest. Something, it can be something really concrete like an object, or it can be something more abstract. So it could be about a secret which one of them wants to reveal and the other one is trying to stop them from revealing. So think about what you want the situation to be, who these characters are, why they're fighting, and what it is that they're fighting over, and also why one character is trying to stop the other character from getting what they want. So have a think about these questions and then have a go at trying to shape this really basically sketched out bit of dialogue which I've given you here into something which can tell this story. And it's only one scene, so it doesn't need to tell the whole story. We've just got a snapshot of these characters' lives and their interaction, but something which gives us some more information about what this is, what this object is. And the other thing to think about as you're writing it is A might start off with a certain method of trying to get what they want from B. So in this, A just quite basically says, you know, give it to me, I need it, you have to give it. But as B keeps saying, no, you can't have it, A slightly changes their tactics. So they go from kind of begging and pleading and asking for it to saying, you know, I'll get it in the end. And then B comes back and asks them kind of how are you going to do it? So they are using a slightly different tactic there. They're saying, well, I'm going to get it in the end, there's no point in standing in my way. So as you're writing, these things might come to you, but how might A have to shift what they're doing to try and get what they want from B? And this is quite a good exercise to do if you're not used to writing dialogue, if you've never written any dialogue before, because it can feel like quite a strange thing to do to begin with. And this gives you a way in, because you've got the basic framework that A wants something and B is stopping them from getting it. But you can add in whatever you want about it. And as you're writing the dialogue, it might be that you find out things about these characters which you almost didn't know before. That sounds weird, but you almost might not have been conscious of exactly what these characters are doing. And sometimes in the process of writing the dialogue, the characters might start to say things which surprise you, which make you realize things about them which even you as the writer didn't know. So to have a go at writing it, and try not to be kind of too critical of yourself as you're doing it. Just allow yourself to write whatever comes out, and you might find that you're learning things about the characters as you do this. So it doesn't have to be a whole play. I mean, it might be the basis of a whole play, and that would be brilliant if you wanted to go ahead and write a whole piece, but it can just be a scene, and you can keep it quite simple. But by the end of it, you want to know what it is these characters are fighting over and why they are fighting over it. So that's quite a lot I've given you there, but if you want to pause the video now and have a go at doing that exercise, unlike an actual bake-off, there shouldn't be any time clashes with the writing. In the workshops that I run, we have to have some element of time pressure because we only have an hour and a half to do it, but give yourself as long as you want to. And also, if you're not used to reading plays or looking at scripts before, then do have a read of some scripts, look things up online. Lots of things are available online, or just watch some TV. That's also good research. And at the moment in lockdown, the good thing that's come out of it is lots of theatres are putting shows online for us to watch at home. So watch things, read things, whatever's going to inspire you. And when you're ready, have a go at writing your scene between A and B, and it can end however you want to. Maybe A gets what they want in the end, or maybe B stops them from getting it. But just experiment with that and see what you come up with. Okay, once you've had a go at that for your signature challenge, the next phase is the technical. For the technical challenge, I'm going to ask you to have a go at writing a monologue. So a monologue is, unlike a dialogue, just one person speaking on stage or on screen if it's in a film or a TV show. And they're used for a variety of reasons. They're often a good way of allowing you to have an insight into a character who perhaps doesn't reveal much about who they really are, or what they're really feeling in front of other characters. But when they're on their own in a monologue form, they might reveal more. Or it might allow you as a writer to do some exposition, which basically means revealing kind of information that your audience might need about your story, which you can't just reveal in dialogue. You might be able to reveal better in a monologue. So a character might have a backstory which doesn't come up in the rest of the play, but this would be a good opportunity for them to reveal something about themselves. Or a whole play could be a monologue. Lots of plays nowadays in particular, kind of one person plays where it's just a monologue all the way through. So the theme I'm going to set you for this monologue is to write about life in lockdown, but you can take this in lots of different ways. So your character could be you, or some version of you and how you're experiencing lockdown. It could be a character that you perhaps have already started working on for something else, maybe a story, maybe a play that you're already writing. Or if you're stuck for ideas to begin with, you might want to pick a character which already exists in someone else's writing. So when we did this in a workshop a few weeks ago, I asked the group to think of a fairy tale character and how they might be experiencing lockdown as a starting point, and write a monologue from the point of view of that character. So, for example, Rapunzel might be having a great time in lockdown because she's used to being shut up by herself in her tower anyway, whereas somebody like the big bad wolf from Little Red Riding Hood might be having a terrible time in lockdown because he can't get out, run through the woods, or carry out any of his plans while lockdown is going on. So if you're stuck for a starting point, a fairy tale character is always a good place to begin with. Or you might have a character in mind, or you might want to start from scratch and creating your character. And if you're doing that, something that you can do to try and get to know your character is just to give yourself a certain length of time, maybe like 20 minutes, and to try and write down as many things as you can about that character, which can kind of start off being kind of easy, simple things like, you know, what they look like, how old they are, what their favourite people are, their favourite colour is, and then will get progressively more difficult the more things that you write. So you can try and set yourself a challenge of writing 50 things about this character in 20 minutes, and you can do that for a new character, or you could do it for a fairy tale character, or even for yourself. You might find out things about yourself that you didn't know, to try and get to grips with who this character is and what they're really about. And then when you've got that ready, when you've got some ideas about who this character is, then it's to try and form this into a monologue. So you might want to think about where your character is during lockdown, where the setting is for their monologue. So this could be Rapunzel in her tower, it could be you in your room at home, it could be a character maybe stuck on an island somewhere, it can be wherever you want. Think about where they are and also what they might be doing whilst they're speaking this monologue. So it could be they're just directly addressing the audience, or it could be that they're busily trying to do something else in the background, maybe trying to plot their escape or something like that. So are they doing anything whilst they're speaking the monologue? And then a good way to start something like this, I always find, is to take the pressure off a bit. Try and do something called a free write, which is just where you give yourself a certain amount of time and you just try and keep writing for that length of time, and don't go back over what you're writing, and don't be too critical of yourself, just to let the ideas out in like a stream of consciousness, and then you can go back afterwards and try and shape it. So give yourself some time just to